Welcome everyone, KD here, and in this tutorial I want to show you how you can work with dynamic materials. So what are dynamic materials? Dynamic materials are materials you can change in the game, its parameters in the game itself, like you can change the colors or the textures and other things like that, without having to create different materials and changing between these different materials. It's all made from all the changes are made with one material. I show you here an easy example, so please look at the cube that is behind my character or standing before my character, because he is looking at the cube right now. And what I can do, and some simple examples what I can do. So by pressing numpad 4, I just change the colors from blue to red. If I press numpad 6, I change the black and the red with the red side. I did this with textures. You will see in this tutorial how exactly I did this. And numpad 5 adds emissive colors. So these are very simple. Is a very simple example of what you can do. Changing dynamic materials. Of course, you have a lot of more options, but these are the three different inputs we need to change many different outputs. And this is a very useful tool, so I hope this tutorial is helpful for you. So, okay, I'm here in my play character blueprint. This is a character blueprint. You can create a new character blueprint by add new, going on blueprint, and then pressing on character. If you want to know more in detail, go watch my play character tutorial where I show you step by step how you can create your player character with controls and all the customizations and so on. So what I did here, this is the active blueprint I created in this tutorial, and what I added now is this cube. The reason is I want to change the material, and because the simple actor skeletal mesh here I uploaded to this tutorial has no UV mapping, and that means I can't use any texture or anything like that. You need UV mapping for textures. That's why I added a simple cube to demonstrate you how it works. So if you have questions about UV mapping, please put it in the comments, because this is not about UV mapping or anything like that. So I added a cube, I set the material. I only explain this because so you know you can change the materials of your character directly. You don't not only of another object or anything like that. And I mean, this object is anyway directly in this actor here. If you want to change the material of another actor that is not the player character, you can do that, but maybe you have to use another method than I use here. I will go a little bit further into this a little bit later. So we go to after we created this cube, we set the material. The material is called 1. Don't ask me why, just label the materials better than I do here in the tutorial. We go to the event graph. Here is everything we did in my play character tutorial. We add a new event, setting custom, right mouse button, then custom, add custom event, and we can create a new event. We call this dynamic materials, because here we create our dynamic materials. And then right mouse button and then create dynamic material instance. That was wrong, sorry. Create dynamic material instance for cube, and then it looks like this. So we have here the element index. If you have a very complex character actor, then you may have more than one material. So here you can set which material you want to change. Here you set the source material, and this is 1. You can of course make an array here. How to make arrays kind of like this one here. You can go watch my, again, I do a lot of references to other tutorials right now, but in my player character tutorials I made this. I don't want to stretch this tutorial into forever by showing you every little detail you can do. And then the only thing you have to do is promote the return value by just pushing this into the editor here, and then you get your thing here, your little window, and then you promote this to a variable. And I already tested it, so I have a second one. So let's call this dynamic material here, and that's how you create a dynamic material. So far we can't change anything with that. That's just to tell the game that this material here from this specific object is a dynamic material, and we may want to change something in there. So just for completion, the other function here, dynamic material instance, here you can select just the material without referencing anything. But right now we want to change the cube. So what we have to do now is first compile this and save. And when you go to your level blueprint and open this up, what we have to do is, so we can do this in 2 ways. We have to say that we have to play at one moment this event. So what we want to do is at the start of the map, maybe doing this. So I can now go here for my dynamic materials and set it in event begin play. Then it does it at the start. However, I will do this a little bit differently because I already have my skin selection event here that also starts at the beginning, and I don't want to, if I have multiple maps, I don't want to every event having to every time setting every event. So the easier way to do this is actually in the play blueprint. Here we have our skin selection, and at the end of that we just set our material dynamic materials, this event. So now when we start the event begin play, the skin selection event will play, and at the end of the skin selection we will do this event here, our dynamic material. Again, I don't want to stretch this out. If you have questions about this, please leave it in the comments, or maybe watch my play character tutorial if you're really a beginner and don't understand how events and things like this work, and what are the different blueprints, character blueprints and level blueprints and so on. Anyway, let's move on. So now we created our dynamic material. I opened here my material. So again, please watch my other tutorials about the material editor, part 1, 2, and 3, if you want to know in detail what I'm doing here. I don't want to explain everything in detail. However, I will do a couple of things differently. We have some little different parameters we will use. I will tell you about the details. So the first thing what I did in this material is added a vector parameter. You can press right mouse, set vector parameter here, and then you get this one here. What I also did is change the name. This is otherwise just none, and I set it to color. That's important. You want to change the name, because then with the name we can then change this parameter, and that's the main difference with the dynamic materials from the other material editor tutorials I made. By the way, I will put the other material editor tutorials in the description, so you can the links, so you can go rewatch this if something that I do here is too fast. Let's save this material. Okay, I'm back in the character editor. So that's the thing we have to do first is, or I want to show you first, is just how to change the color via input. And so we have to choose a key button, so we can change a key for changing the color. So I will go for numpad 4 for this. And now I have to say one thing. For a game, I wouldn't do it like this. This is just so I can show you very simple way to change your material. I probably would use an UI, a HUD, or anything like that to change customization things and like that and so on. And I would also create different variables so I can save the changes and things like that. All this I won't do in this tutorial. So just so you know, this is just a simple setup. Also, I want to show you how you can toggle between the colors. We will just change the colors. Anyway, we have now made our dynamic material variable here, and we can just pull this in and get. And now when we go in here under rendering, material, and the last 3 commands is the ones we need. We can set scalar parameters, texture parameters, and vector parameters, and I will show you how we can change all 3 of them. So first we change the vector parameter by pressing numpad 4, and we see here we have 3 inputs we can do. One is our target, that's the dynamic material we created. Here we have the parameter name, that's color, and then here we can change the value. We can change it directly in here, like to red now. You can also break this down, and then you have red, green, blue, and then you can, as example, set here variables. You can do this directly in here by again promoting 2 variables, or you create these variables in your save blueprint, and then you can actually save the changes you want to make. And you can then set these variables onto an UI, as example. Maybe a slider would be nice. a slider that changes the variable from 0 to 1. And as example, and so you can give your player the option to choose every color he wants for a part of the body of your character and things like that. So that's a way to do further customizations and even change the customizations in the Go while playing the game. So we have to go back to red here. For now I will just do this, and I will compile and save this, and we play. Now we have our character and the cube before him, and with pressing, I will press numpad 4. You see we change the color to red. That's ignore the error here. That's something else. Not a tutorial I did. Has nothing to do with this. So you see, you can easily change the color like this. Again, if you want to toggle back and so on, you kind of need to add more variations here. I won't show you this. I think, yeah, maybe you want to do something like this here. Yeah, maybe go watch my character play character tutorial if you want to know how you can toggle between things, but it's not that difficult. So with that, we want that's one thing we can change. Now there are two other things we can change: texture and scalar parameters. So first, I will show you how to change scalar parameters. So we'll do this with emissive colors, because it's the easiest thing to show you if something is lighting up and so on. So in the other parts about the material editor, I always used constant because it's the easiest to get. It's already here in the list and so on. For dynamic materials, this is not good enough. What we need is a scalar, if I can type it correctly, a scalar parameter. Let's push this in, and you see the only difference here is now we can change our name for our parameter, and that's the important thing. We need the name. So let's call this EC for emissive colors. We want to do it simple right now, so we don't do any mistake. And I will keep this as 0 for now. Here default value 0. And 0 means there is no emissive color. There is no light that is coming out of the material. So we'll save this. So back in the character editor blueprint, we want to now have a key for changing the emissive color. So I will choose a new key for this. Let's numpad 5, and we do from the dynamic material because it's the easiest way to do it. Rendering materials, and this time we have scalar parameter value. So we will set this. It looks very simple, except the value is now one simple variable, a float variable. We call this emissive colors. That's why I just used the first letters, so it's easy. And put this on 20, so we see the difference very good. And you of course can also do something like a slider if you want to have the option to dim the light or anything like that. Then you can have here a more dynamic value, then I wouldn't do it like this. However, you could also do it over a button and then just put 1 plus 1 to the value and things like that. This is again, just so you know, a simple demonstration in how you can do things. So I compile this, I play, and now when I press F5, we see the emissive color is stronger, and we can easily change this. We can, however, not change back. Like again, we can toggle it. The last thing I want to show you is how to change textures. That's of course also possible. And here again, in the last tutorials, I always used texture samples. Again, this is not enough, and you see directly why. We don't have any name or anything like that we can do. However, that's not a big problem. There is input for this, that's texture sample parameter 2D. You can also cube or sub UV. I would tell you to use 2D, and you see it's the same thing. The only change is we can now actually change the name. So let's call this texture, and then here you see we can set our texture. So I will change between map 1 and map 2. You see the only thing it does, it changes the faces, so black and the colored faces will change between map 1 and map 2. Again, for a simple demonstration, we multiply. We could of course just put this in now into the base colors, but we can combine this with the color palette by multiplying it and then putting it in the base colors. So everything you see now white will be blue thanks to the parameter here. And I saved it. After saving, this is how it looks like. We see one side is black, the other side is blue. And what we do here is just changing the blue with the black. That's the goal here, by changing the texture. Of course, you can change much more complex textures if you want to with this method. And we come back here again, we select the next key, numpad 6, and from here dynamic materials, and on the rendering material we set texture parameter value. Connect this, change the name here texture, and here we can change it. So we now have map 1, we want to change it to map 2. Again, you can get here similar like I did up here, different types of materials by making an array, and so you can change different types of textures and things like that. Again, it's not about this in this tutorial, otherwise this tutorial would be way too long if I would show you every single thing. Yes, and I will compile this and play. So we have our cube here, I press 6 and you see the faces change. We can't change back because we don't toggle it, and we still can't change the red. We can still change our emissive colors. There's one last thing I want to show you, and if you watch my material editor tutorial part 3, there I showed you how you can create layered materials with material function. So right now we just changed directly the parameters in the material itself, so in here. However, now here I have a material that has two different layers put in as output. I changed my base layer, this parameter, I call this color. What I want to show you with that is that you can change, you can also change the material functions parameters in there. You just have to really be careful with the names. If you have different colors for different layers, you may want to label them correctly, like color layer 1, color layer 2, or just color 1, color 2, and so on. So be careful about that. And so I already created this material like this, and I called it the same way. I chose to name the set vector parameter, so we can just change the color by pressing numpad 4. However, we have to do two changes here. Create dynamic material instance. We instead we choose our old material. I called it new material. Again, please label your materials better than I do in this tutorial. You may have in your final game maybe over hundreds materials, and then maybe even more material layers and so on, and you really want to know which is which and so on. And the second thing we have to change here is on the viewport, our cube. Also here, we want to set our new material. Of course, you can do this everything, changing the material and so on. You can do this in the blueprint itself, and not so you don't have to do it manually. But again, I don't want to show you how to set these things up. This is not the thematic of this tutorial. After this, we compile and save. We play, and if I press 4, we change the base color of the blue one. So you can see we can even change not only the parameters of a material, but the parameters of a material function that is connected to a material directly. That's all I wanted to show you. I hope this was helpful. I think this is absolutely interesting if you want to do customizations, give the player a lot of options. For example, for a character customization editor at the beginning of the game, so you can change colors, skin colors, eye colors, you can change the colors of your outfits, and all these things like that. But again, I just showed you how you can do it in a very simplified way. Of course, depending on how your game is built, you may want to do it more complex. Also, you may now only think, yeah, there are only 3 inputs we can change: the scalar parameter, the vector parameter, and the texture parameter. But these 3 are all the ones you need to change the different outputs. For changing different outputs, please again watch part 1 to 3 if you don't know how to do this. I go very into detail in this part about the material editor. And with that, I want to end this tutorial about dynamic materials. I think it's a very useful tool if you know how it works, and it isn't that difficult to use. So thank you for watching. Please, if you have any questions, leave it in the comments. I will try to answer every of your questions. If you liked it and found this tutorial helpful, please subscribe. But thank you for watching, and I hope I will see you in another video.